Hey y'all, what's tea? It's your girl Purple Dog, and I'm collabing with Quality Control Music for JT City Cinderella concert this week in Birmingham. Y'all got y'all tickets because I will be in the building.
On a quiet Alabama highway, a 21-year-old college student was found slumped in the passenger seat of a moving car. A single bullet had entered her head. The driver, her boyfriend, and the father of a child, calmly called 911. He claimed she shot herself. But within days, police noticed discrepancies. The trajectory of the bullet, the positioning of her body, the weapon. Digital evidence didn't align with his version of events. Instead of suicide, the forensic trail pointed to a stage scene and potentially a murder. The victim was Jenia Grimes, a rising star at Alabama State University. Known on campus as Strawberry, she danced with the honeybees and dreamed of becoming a lawyer. She had just become a mother. Her future was mapped out. And then it stopped on Highway 80. Rogers McLeod Jr., her boyfriend, said the argument was over tuition money. He told dispatchers she pulled the trigger. But investigators uncovered video clips he recorded. One as she bled in the seat, the other sent to his mother. They noticed the weapon was missing from her hands in one clip, then appeared on her shoulder in the next. Now he's charged with capital murder. The child is without a mother. And the case has left the ASU campus and the wider community asking, what really happened inside that car? Was it a crime of passion? A calculated cover-up? A case of escalating domestic violence? Or all three? What forensic detail flipped the case? Why was the tuition money never recovered? And who was Jenia Grimes, beyond the headlines?
And killing his girlfriend was in court today. Rogers McLeod Jr. is charged with capital murder in the death of Jenia Grimes.
Grimes was shot earlier this year. Authorities say they found the pair in a car at the WA exit. Today, we heard new details about what investigators believe actually unfolded. WSFA 12 News reporter Rosanna Smith has the details.
This is the story of a young woman who never made it to graduation, and a man who claimed she took her own life. But the evidence, authorities say, tells another story. Stay with us as we unravel this shocking story and uncover the heartbreaking details of what led to this senseless loss. If you enjoy real crime stories that uncover the truth, don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us share real cases, spread awareness, and give a voice to those who can't speak for themselves. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? And what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we reveal the crimes that shock communities and the secrets hidden behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now let's begin. Jenia Grimes was a 21-year-old college student enrolled at Alabama State University, a historically black college located in Montgomery, Alabama. She was studying criminal justice with the intent of pursuing a legal career. Jenia was known for her ambition and maintained a strong academic presence despite the demands in her personal life. Her status as a first-generation college student made her educational journey significant within her family. There were high expectations placed on her to succeed and elevate her family's standing. In addition to her academic responsibilities, Jenia was a member of the university's Honeybees dance team, a well-known and highly visible performance group that operated as part of ASU's marching band. Her stage name was Strawberry, and she was easily recognized by fellow students and the broader HBCU community. Her performances frequently appeared on social media, generating attention both on and off campus. Jenia became a mother at the age of 20. She gave birth to a son whose father was Rogers McLeod Jr., her on and off boyfriend at the time. Following the birth, she attempted to balance full-time motherhood with a demanding college schedule and an active role in the dance team. Sources from her academic department stated that she remained committed to her studies, regularly attending class, and working on case studies, legal theory, and criminal justice coursework. Financially, Jenia was heavily reliant on tuition scholarships, federal assistance, and her family. She did not have consistent income and was reportedly saving up to pay for her remaining tuition fees for the semester. There were references to her discussing tuition payments with peers and advisors in the weeks leading up to her death. On social media, Jenya projected an image of confidence, resilience, and school spirit. Her Instagram and TikTok accounts contain clips of dance routines, campus life, and references to her identity as both a mother and a student. Posts often featured her son and ASU paraphernalia. However, friends close to her described a more complex reality behind the scenes. They claimed she was frequently under stress due to financial constraints, academic workload, and the unstable nature of her relationship with McLeod. Despite this, they also describe her as focused, disciplined, and determined to complete her degree and enter the legal field. The public persona of Jenya Grimes was one of perseverance. Privately, her life involved balancing high pressure on multiple fronts: the stress of school, raising a child without stable support, and managing a deteriorating personal relationship with the father of her child. Rogers B.B. McLeod Jr. is a male in his mid-20s from Montgomery, Alabama. He was not enrolled in school at the time of the incident and did not have a known full-time job or academic affiliation with Alabama State University. He was, however, known among students on campus due to his connection with Jenya and their child. McLeod was the biological father of Jenya's son and maintained frequent contact with her, as they co-parented and remained in an intimate relationship at various points. Their relationship was described by close acquaintances as rocky and unstable. It was characterized by frequent arguments and periods of separation. Despite multiple breakups, they regularly reconciled due to their shared parenting responsibilities. Peers of Jenya claimed that McLeod had shown signs of possessive and jealous behavior. These observations were supported by testimony from those who had witnessed disputes between the two, both in person and over social media. While McLeod did not have a documented criminal history prior to the incident, people who knew the couple referred to his conduct as toxic and controlling. Reports included episodes where he attempted to monitor her social life, question her participation in dance activities, and express distrust toward her interactions with other students. Some individuals believe Jenya stayed in contact with him primarily for the sake of their child, and because he often provided transportation and childcare assistance. His access to her life remained constant, despite the fluctuating nature of their relationship. McLeod reportedly lived either with family members or in temporary housing in or around Montgomery. He had no stable income reported at the time. His online presence was minimal, but he occasionally shared content involving Jenya or their son. Prior to the incident, no formal reports of domestic violence had been filed against McLeod. However, several people close to the couple have stated that arguments between them had intensified in the weeks before the shooting. These tensions were believed to center around money, specifically tuition funds Jenya had saved and the status of their relationship. McLeod was last seen with Jenya alive on March 27th, the day of the fatal incident. He was driving the vehicle in which she was found shot in the head on Highway 80. His 911 call claimed she shot herself during an argument, but later investigation uncovered evidence inconsistent with this claim. The same vehicle became the central crime scene in the case. Police later stated that McLeod provided conflicting accounts about the events leading up to the shooting. His phone was used to capture two videos, one before and one after Jenya's death. These videos were later analyzed and became key forensic evidence in the case against him. He was arrested and charged with capital murder a few days later. Before the shooting, there were clear signs of volatility in the relationship between Jenya Grimes and Rogers McLeod Jr. The two shared a child and were romantically involved, but their relationship was characterized by recurring instability. Witnesses from Alabama State University, ASU, and Jenya's personal circle had observed a pattern of arguments between them. Several friends noted that McLeod often appeared agitated over Jenya's visibility on campus, especially her participation with the ASU Honeybees, a prominent dance team known for public performances and social media presence. Jealousy was frequently discussed in private conversations, with McLeod reportedly expressing discomfort with the attention Jenya received. Jenya had also reportedly begun expressing doubts about the relationship. According to at least two friends, she mentioned that she was thinking about leaving McLeod. These statements were made in the weeks leading up to the incident, and while no official reports were filed, the individual she confided in later shared this information with authorities during interviews. Another source of conflict was the management of their child. The couple had different expectations regarding caregiving responsibilities, which caused frequent arguments. Friends described ongoing disputes about who would watch the baby during school hours, who was contributing financially, and the extent of McLeod's involvement as a parent. These disagreements reportedly increased in frequency after the child was born, indicating heightened pressure in the relationship post-pregnancy. Financial issues also played a central role. Jenia, a college student and new mother, was reported to be saving money independently to cover her tuition. She had financial goals that she guarded closely, and friends believed this created tension with McLeod, especially if he felt excluded from financial decisions or dependent on her planning. The exact amount she had saved remains unclear, but some close friends stated she kept her savings private to avoid conflict. Despite the conflict, McLeod remained closely involved in her daily movements. Multiple witnesses stated that he often drove her around campus and to off-campus appointments. While this could suggest concern or convenience, it also established a pattern of frequent contact and potential control. Jenia had limited access to her own transportation, further deepening her reliance on McLeod for mobility. The events of March 27th began with Jenia and McLeod together in a vehicle, driving along Highway 80, eastbound near Pike Road in Alabama. That day, based on later statements made by McLeod, the two were engaged in a heated argument. The subject of the dispute, according to his account, was money, specifically Jenia's tuition fund. This argument marked a continuation of the financial disagreements they were reportedly having. As they drove, something escalated inside the vehicle. According to McLeod's version of events provided to police and dispatchers, Jenia pulled out a gun and shot herself in the head. McLeod stated that the act occurred suddenly and that there was no time to intervene. He claimed she took her own life during the course of the argument, while the vehicle was still in motion. After the shooting, McLeod did not immediately stop the car. Instead, he continued driving until he pulled into a gas station. The location was roughly several minutes away from the reported site of the shooting. Once at the gas station, he made a call to 911. In the call, McLeod identified himself and reported that his girlfriend had shot herself. Dispatch logs confirmed that the call was calm and lacked audible panic. He informed the dispatcher that the shooting happened inside the moving car and that he had now pulled over. Emergency medical services responded quickly. On arrival, first responders found Jenny in the passenger seat with a gunshot wound to the head. She was still alive but unresponsive. Due to the severity of the injury, she was immediately airlifted from the scene and transported to a nearby hospital for emergency treatment. Despite these efforts, Jenia Grimes was later pronounced dead at the hospital. Law enforcement officers who initially processed the scene began noting several elements that contradicted a typical suicide scenario. These observations led them to preserve the vehicle for forensic evaluation and to begin deeper questioning of McLeod. His cooperation was described as selective, and his account of the sequence of events became a key focus of the investigation. The weapon involved, a handgun, was recovered at the scene. However, forensic analysts later identified inconsistencies. Notably, McLeod had recorded a video immediately after the shooting in which the gun was not visible in Jenia's hands. A second video, taken later and sent to his mother, showed the gun positioned on her shoulder. The timing of these videos indicated that the scene may have been altered between the initial shooting and the arrival of EMS. The absence of gunshot residue on Jenia's hands was flagged as another inconsistency. In suicides involving handguns, residue is typically found on the victim's hands due to the proximity of discharge. This absence supported an alternative theory that someone else discharged the weapon. Together, these details shifted the case from a possible suicide to a suspected homicide. McLeod's narrative was no longer aligned with the physical evidence. Investigators also found that the couple's prior arguments and the financial motive over missing tuition funds added weight to the theory of foul play. As the investigation advanced, detectives gathered statements from Jenia's friends, text messages, and McLeod's digital trail. Everything pointed toward a pattern of control, escalating conflict, and motive. Forensic findings, combined with circumstantial evidence, allowed police to develop probable cause. McLeod was arrested on April 4th and charged with capital murder. When police began dissecting the events that led to the death of 21-year-old Alabama State University student Jenia Grimes, they quickly zeroed in on the motive, a combination of financial strain, emotional volatility, and control. According to Rogers McLeod Jr., Jenia's boyfriend and the father of her child, the fatal incident began with an argument over tuition money. He told investigators that Jenia had grown upset and irrational during the drive down Highway 80. He claimed she took out a gun and shot herself in the head during the confrontation. This was the foundation of his defense. However, police learned that Jenia had been saving money for her tuition in recent weeks. The funds were intended to secure her enrollment for the next semester at Alabama State. Friends later confirmed that she had spoken about hiding this money because she feared McLeod might misuse it or take it under false pretenses. After her death, this tuition money was unaccounted for. Investigators never found it among her personal belongings, at her residence, or in any known bank account. This financial dispute wasn't isolated. It reflected a deeper pattern of tension within the relationship. Jenia, a full-time student dancer and new mother, was reportedly becoming more independent. She had resumed classes and resumed dancing with the honeybees after childbirth. Multiple witnesses stated that she had started confiding in others about her desire to end the relationship with McLeod. She allegedly expressed concerns that he was becoming increasingly controlling and possessive. The couple's child, a baby under 1 year old, added another layer of stress. Jenia was the primary caregiver. McLeod's access to the child depended largely on her cooperation. Friends believed McLeod was growing increasingly paranoid that she might take legal steps to reduce or limit his access to the baby once she left him. The custody implications may have triggered a perceived loss of control on his part. Emotional dependency was also a potential factor. Although there was no formal restraining order, peers described McLeod as being obsessed with Jenia's movements and interactions. Reports of McLeod driving her frequently and inserting himself into her daily schedule support this pattern of emotional dependence. This convergence of financial stress, relationship instability, custody concerns, and fear of abandonment formed the core of the motive prosecutors would later argue in court. The scenario matched a broader pattern seen in other domestic homicide cases. The victim seeks freedom. The perpetrator acts violently to maintain control. What initially appeared to be a suicide began to unravel almost immediately after police arrived on the scene. On March 27th, McLeod pulled into a gas station on Highway 80 and called 911. He calmly told dispatchers that his girlfriend had shot herself in the car while they were driving. The tone of the call raised the first red flag. According to transcripts and operator notes, McLeod did not appear distressed. There were no recorded attempts at CPR or panic in his voice. First responders noted the absence of urgency in the call. Upon arrival, emergency personnel found Jenia slumped in the passenger seat, suffering from a gunshot wound to the head. She was transported to the hospital by helicopter, but later died from her injuries. The crime scene was limited to the vehicle, and initial observations were inconsistent with a clean suicide narrative. Police quickly noticed that the gun was not found in Jenia's hand or lap when they arrived. This contradicted the statement McLeod gave. Later, officers were presented with video footage McLeod had taken with his phone. 2 distinct Snapchat videos were recovered. In the first video, Jenia is seen bleeding in the passenger seat. There is no gun visible in this recording. In the second video, sent moments later to McLeod's mother, the gun is now clearly positioned on Jenia's shoulder. Investigators found the shift suspicious. The time gap between the 2 videos was minimal, yet the position of the weapon had changed. This suggested that the scene may have been staged after the shooting occurred. Investigators flagged these videos as critical evidence. They established probable cause that the scene was altered to fit the suicide claim. The Snapchat videos also demonstrated that McLeod did not render aid or seek help immediately. Instead, he focused on documenting the scene. This behavior deviated from the expected reaction of someone witnessing a self-inflicted gunshot wound. In addition to digital inconsistencies, the autopsy contradicted the suicide theory. Forensic examiners found no gunshot residue on Jenia's hands. There was no evidence of stippling or burns that would typically occur from a self-inflicted shot at close range. The trajectory of the bullet which entered at an angle inconsistent with suicide, further supported the homicide theory. These details collectively undermined McLeod's account. As the evidence mounted, community awareness of the case grew. Alabama State University's student body began circulating petitions and hashtags demanding a thorough investigation. The Honeybees team posted tributes, which garnered thousands of views. Public pressure, particularly from the HBCU community and Jennia's social circle, amplified calls for justice. Montgomery police faced scrutiny to handle the investigation transparently. The visibility of the case online meant investigators worked quickly to secure digital evidence, witness testimony, and expert forensic reports. Within a week, detectives submitted their findings to the district attorney. On April 4th, Rogers McLeod Jr. was arrested and charged with capital murder. Authorities cited the forensic contradictions, video manipulation, and inconsistencies in his narrative as the primary basis for the charge. The capital murder designation was not arbitrary. Prosecutors believe the evidence showed intentional killing, possibly committed in front of a child, though this detail remains sealed. The state argued that McLeod killed Jenia either in the heat of an argument or through a planned escalation intended to prevent her from leaving and taking the baby with her. In the end, what began as a 911 call about a suicide was methodically dismantled through digital forensics, autopsy analysis, and timeline reconstruction. Each detail, missing tuition money, absence of gunpowder residue, change in weapon location, moved the investigation from suspicion to formal indictment. This portion of the investigation marked a turning point in the case. It transformed the narrative from that of a grieving boyfriend into a suspect facing the most serious criminal charge in the state of Alabama. On April 4th, 2024, just 8 days after the fatal shooting of 21-year-old Alabama State University student Jenia Grimes, her boyfriend and the father of her child, Rogers McLeod Jr., was arrested and formally charged with capital murder. The arrest was made by the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office after investigators reviewed physical evidence, forensic reports, and digital content collected from McLeod's mobile device. The decision to pursue a capital murder charge was based on multiple aggravating factors. These include the presence of a minor child as a dependent of the victim, the use of a firearm, and suspected domestic violence leading up to the event. According to charging documents, prosecutors believe the murder was intentional, not spontaneous, and that the scene had been tampered with after the fact. Following the arrest, bail was denied. Prosecutors argued that the nature of the crime, the manipulation of the scene, and the risk of flight or witness tampering warranted holding McLeod without bond. The court agreed, citing the strength of the forensic and digital evidence. Authorities also recovered the murder weapon, a firearm that was found and matched the fatal bullet through ballistic testing. This physical link between the firearm and Jenia's head wound eliminated any ambiguity surrounding the source of the shot. Furthermore, residue analysis confirmed that Jenia had no gunpowder burns or discharge on her hands, which undercut McLeod's original claim that she shot herself while inside the moving vehicle. Investigators concluded that McLeod had attempted to manipulate the scene using Snapchat videos. The gun was not visible in the first video he recorded after the shooting. However, in a subsequent clip sent to his mother, he made a direct statement that she shot herself, and the gun was now propped on Jenia's shoulder. These inconsistencies raise immediate suspicions that McLeod may have altered the body's positioning between recordings to support a false suicide narrative. Law enforcement and prosecutors viewed the videos not as evidence of innocence, but rather as digital tampering, and that fact played a pivotal role in escalating the charge from manslaughter or second-degree murder to capital murder. Once McLeod was in custody, the legal process began with preliminary hearings. These early court sessions served to determine whether sufficient evidence existed to proceed to trial. In these hearings, forensic analysts from the Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences presented ballistic and trajectory data. Their findings showed that the bullet's path was inconsistent with a self-inflicted wound from the passenger side. Medical examiners noted that the angle and proximity of the shot did not match suicide scenarios commonly seen in forensic cases. The prosecution highlighted the 2 Snapchat videos recorded by McLeod at the scene. The timing, angles, and present or absence of the firearm were reviewed frame by frame by digital forensics experts. Their testimony emphasized the likelihood of scene manipulation between videos, raising doubts about McLeod's claim that the shooting occurred without his interference. A judge found probable cause and allowed the case to proceed to a grand jury, which returned a formal indictment for capital murder. This advancement signified that the evidence presented, physical, digital, testimonial, and forensic, was compelling enough to justify a full trial. During pre-trial filings, McLeod's defense team maintained a suicide defense, asserting that Jenia had become distraught during the argument and had used a weapon on herself. The defense also requested exclusion of the Snapchat videos, arguing they were prejudicial and taken out of context. However, the prosecution insisted the videos were core to establishing intent, manipulation, and post-crime behavior. The prosecution, led by Montgomery County District Attorney's Office, argued that the murder was deliberate and involved elements of domestic violence. Court records showed that friends and relatives of Jenia had reported prior verbal altercations between the couple, and texts were introduced that suggested emotional manipulation and possessiveness. As the legal proceedings moved toward trial, one issue remained unresolved: custody of the child. Jenia's child, who was less than a year old at the time of the murder, was placed temporarily with maternal relatives. A family court was tasked with determining permanent guardianship, a process that would run parallel to the criminal case. The aftermath of Jenia Grimes' death extended beyond the courtroom. Her sudden and violent end shocked the Alabama State University, ASU, community and ignited broader conversations about intimate partner violence among young women, especially within historically black colleges and universities' HBCUs. After McLeod's arrest, Jenia's child was removed from his paternal care. A temporary custody order placed the child with a maternal aunt while the probate court reviewed guardianship petitions. Multiple family members stepped forward expressing interest in custody, but child services prioritized psychological evaluations and long-term welfare assessments before issuing final custody rulings. On campus, ASU organized a candlelight vigil in Jenia's memory. Faculty, students, and members of the Honey Bees dance team gathered to pay their respects. The university president released a formal statement acknowledging Jenia's academic and extracurricular contributions and expressed concern over intimate partner violence affecting college students. The Honey Bees, the university's prominent plus-size dance troupe, issued a public tribute across social media platforms, sharing clips of Jenia's performances and messages of remembrance. They emphasized her leadership, energy, and aspirations beyond dance, particularly her ambition to become a criminal defense attorney. The case also triggered widespread online attention. The hashtag Justice for Jenia Grimes began trending on X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Users shared screenshots of news reports, legal filings, and even older posts from Jenia's social media accounts. Public outrage intensified after details of the Snapchat videos were released, with many users accusing McLeod of staging a cover-up. Advocacy groups focused on domestic violence and student safety began citing the Grimes case as an example of the silent epidemic of abuse affecting college-age women. Several ASU professors and student groups began drafting proposals to improve on-campus support systems, including counseling, relationship safety education, and reporting channels for emotional or physical abuse. Other HBCUs took notice. Student organizations from Spelman, Howard, and FAMU referenced the Grimes case during panel discussions on gender-based violence. Calls were made to establish mandatory domestic abuse awareness modules during freshman orientation across all Alabama-based colleges. While the criminal trial is still pending, Jenia's legacy has already influenced local policy discussions and campus safety initiatives. Her story is now cited alongside other high-profile cases involving domestic violence in student populations. The case of Jenia Grimes is not just about one tragic incident. It is about evidence, gunshot trajectory, digital video manipulation, conflicting testimonies, and forensic fact. Prosecutors believe this wasn't suicide. It was murder committed by someone she trusted. The legal system will now determine the final outcome. Do the Snapchat videos prove manipulation of the scene? Should bail be denied in all domestic violence murder cases? Is capital murder an appropriate charge based on the evidence presented? How can universities create better protections for students in abusive relationships? Should social media content be admissible in murder trials? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. The trial is coming, and justice, if it's to be served, will unfold in the courtroom. The case of Jenia Grimes remains defined not only by the evidence presented, but also by the critical gaps still left unaddressed. These gaps may play a significant role in the upcoming trial and public perception of the events surrounding her death. According to reports from friends and family, Jenia Grimes had been saving tuition money intended for the next semester at Alabama State University. She was financially independent, focused on her academic future, and committed to staying enrolled. The night she died, her boyfriend Rogers McLeod Jr. told authorities their argument was over this tuition money. After her death, the funds were never recovered. No bank deposit matched the amount she was believed to have set aside. The cash was not found in her personal effects, her car, or her apartment. Investigators have not released any confirmation that McLeod had possession of it, nor have they disclosed that the money was withdrawn prior to the incident. The missing funds remain a potential motive, especially if financial control or theft was involved. Prosecutors have charged Rogers McLeod Jr. with capital murder. That charge implies premeditation or murder committed during the commission of another felony. The manipulation of the crime scene, particularly the movement of the weapon in the Snapchat videos, raises a question of whether this was a calculated act. The suspect sent a video of Jenia bleeding in the car to his mother, then later added a second clip where the gun appeared to be staged on her shoulder. The fact that these videos were taken and distributed before medical help was rendered could support the theory of intentional staging and concealment. However, investigators have not publicly concluded whether this was a pre-planned killing or a spontaneous act followed by a cover-up. For now, the timeline and intent remain under examination by forensic experts and the prosecution team. While there is no confirmed criminal history of domestic abuse involving McLeod, friends of Jenia reported previous arguments and controlling behavior. She allegedly told close friends she was considering ending the relationship. She had also expressed frustration about financial disputes and parenting disagreements. These indicators suggest a pattern of emotional control. Though there is no official documentation of physical abuse prior to the homicide, without police reports or restraining orders, earlier incidents of domestic abuse, if they occurred, may not be admissible unless witnesses step forward. Investigators are reportedly continuing to interview Jenia's social circle for any information that would establish a pattern of escalating behavior. If proven, such patterns could support the theory of premeditated domestic violence rather than an isolated act. Friends and family members stated that in the weeks before her death, Jenia had mentioned feeling overwhelmed. She was reportedly juggling school, motherhood, and financial responsibilities. Some sources claim she talked about leaving McLeod. Others say she was attempting to secure stable housing independent of him. However, there are no public audio recordings, text messages, or formal statements released to indicate a concrete breakup plan. If she had expressed a desire to leave the relationship, that could be interpreted as a potential trigger for the incident, especially in cases involving coercive or possessive partners. The full scope of her final communications remains unclear. Rogers McLeod Jr. has been formally charged with capital murder. Under Alabama law, capital murder includes killings that occur during other felonies or that involve particularly aggravated circumstances. The presence of digital manipulation, forensic inconsistencies, and the victim's vulnerability may all factor into how the trial proceeds. A preliminary hearing confirmed sufficient probable cause to move forward. The defense maintains that Jenia shot herself. The prosecution is building a case centered on motive, scene tampering, and the inconsistency between video evidence and forensic reports. If convicted, McLeod faces a potential life sentence without parole or the death penalty. Prosecutors have not yet stated whether they intend to pursue capital punishment. The decision may depend on the strength of digital evidence and expert forensic testimony regarding intent and premeditation. Factors such as the age of the victim, the presence of a child now left motherless, and video footage documenting the immediate aftermath may influence sentencing if the court finds McLeod guilty. Jenia Grimes' family has remained publicly focused on seeking justice. In social media statements and during university vigils, they've demanded a full investigation and maximum accountability. Her child is currently under the care of maternal relatives, and no public custody decision has been finalized regarding the father. The family is cooperating with investigators and has called for greater protection for young women in college relationships, particularly those involving parenting and financial dependency. Jenia's death has triggered renewed conversations about domestic violence in college environments, especially at HBCUs. Students and faculty at Alabama State University have begun advocating for improved mental health services, anonymous reporting systems, and education about relationship safety. National organizations have taken note of the case as an example of how early red flags may go unnoticed in young adult relationships, where institutional support systems may be limited. Depending on the trial's outcome, it could influence discussions on mandatory domestic violence training for students and staff at colleges across the country. Do you believe the Snapchat videos were an attempt to cover up a crime? What would motivate someone to film a wounded partner rather than immediately calling for help? Could this case have been prevented if earlier red flags were addressed? Would intervention by campus officials, friends, or family have made a difference? Should digital manipulation of crime scenes carry enhanced penalties? Does moving a weapon or tampering with video evidence indicate a higher level of intent? Is the justice system doing enough to protect young mothers in toxic relationships? Are there legal gaps in how courts handle threats, custody concerns, and co-parenting disputes? What can HBCUs and colleges nationwide do to protect students from domestic violence? Should relationship education and domestic abuse reporting be mandatory orientation components? If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.